everyone, welcome to the show. I am Usha Rajak. It's a new year, new beginning, new opportunities. Today we have a very special guest for you. A man of recognition, man of many talents, but most of us know him as the founder of the new AUCA, the man who made it happen, the new AUCA. So we all know who he is. Mr. Andrew Wachtel, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Andrew Wachtel.
Thank you.
You are a professor, a doctor. How shall we address you?
Andrew is fine.
Andrew. Okay.
Informal is better for interviews, I think.
Oh, here we are. I told you. Well, it's been 6 months since the new AUCA opened and the buzz is still around. Why? What's so special about the new AUCA?
Well, I think that, first of all, the energy level of the building is incredibly high and people appreciate that. So when you walk in the door, you feel like you're being brought into something that's quite different from anything else that exists in the country. I think the students feel that. So we always said, you know, we give a different kind of education, we have different kinds of people here. But if you're doing all the things you're doing in the same old buildings that everybody else does them in, then you don't notice it quite as much. And here, the surroundings now put people in the right mood and give them the feeling that, yes, this really is a totally different place. And I think that makes itself felt then in all different areas of work and play that take place inside the building.
So has there been any increment among the potential students of AUCA and their parents?
We have a pretty strong indication that indeed there's more interest than there has been in the past. But in the end, of course, what matters to us is that there are more qualified students who want to come to the university. So that will take when we see it. To hear, oh, there's, people are asking more questions, we're getting more email inquiries, we're getting more telephone calls, that's all good. We've done a lot of advertising internationally also on using both general platforms like Facebook and also using more specific targeted platforms, and we've gotten a fair number of responses to those as well. But whether we turn those responses into real live human beings, that remains to be seen. So we're really focusing this year on getting the total number of freshmen for next year up. This year we had 297, I think, who enrolled, and we're trying to get up to between 325 and 350 next year, because the building wants to have about 1,600 students in it. So we'd like to have about 1,350 undergraduates and 250 graduate students. And we're opening some new programs, some new master's degree programs. So hopefully all that taken together, along with the building itself and the buzz around the building, will get us more students, and the place will become even more energetic and active than it is now.
Wow, I can only imagine how vibrant it will be. Already it's so vibrant, really. And what about the donors? Ever since we moved into the new campus, have we attracted new donors ready to help us?
That's a good question, and I wish the answer were yes, there's all these people who want to give us money. But as you know, the economic conditions right now are difficult, particularly in Central Asia and this part of the world. So we have had some very nice discussions with, it will end up being a donation. We're starting a school program here, because one of the problems that we've seen is that we don't get enough qualified students from the Kyrgyz school system, because unfortunately it's not a particularly good school system at this point. And there is an organization called Bilim Kana, which is a private school network. They now have about 9 schools. And we will open, starting next fall, a school with them affiliated with AUCA. Eventually they will build a school across the way. But next year I think they will start in our building with probably 10th and 11th graders, or 9th, 10th and 11th graders. And we have a very complicated program that will be funded by a combination of money, I think, from George Soros, from the donor Erkin Beck, who founded the NGA program, and from Bilim Kana to build an endowment to allow students from underprivileged backgrounds to attend AUCA and to pay for it. And then in return, those students will teach for a couple of years in the schools of Bilim Kana. So that will be ultimately about a $18 million endowment that we're trying to put together. So that we're very actively working on now. And then the other project we're working on, which will require a lot of money, it's not exactly, well, it's a kind of investment, is to start a medical school, which also requires building a real hospital.
Wow.
So we're beginning to talk to a bunch of local potential investors in a hospital project. That's a big project. That's probably ultimately a $100 million project. But there's a lot of interest in that because the state of medical care in this country is, well, hopefully you haven't had to use too much medical care in this country. It's not so good, and people realize that, and I think there's an appetite for building something that would be significantly better.
That's great, a medical department. And what else? In the smaller scale, are we introducing new departments?
Well, we'll have a new program in radio, television, and film next year, assuming the Ministry of Education approves it, but I believe that they will. And that, I think, will be quite interesting. I mean, we have many students involved in radio, television, film already. Some are students in the journalism department that exists now, some are not. As you also may know, a lot of the best directors and TV show personalities in Kyrgyzstan are our former students, even though most of them didn't do a program in this area. So we think we can attract both interesting faculty from this world of people and also students who might not have otherwise come here to do that program. So that we're very excited about that program for next year. We're also starting a geology program next year, and that's an area where Kyrgyzstan clearly needs people, so we're hoping that students will sign up for that as well.
Geology. We are using geothermal in your university.
We are.
Are people asking you questions? Are the businesses and organizations asking you questions about, hey, how did you do that?
We have had questions about that. I mean, the problem with geothermal energy here, at least right now, is that it's still too expensive to do it, given how under-costed the price of electricity is. So it's still cheaper for people to build in a very irresponsible way, ecologically irresponsible and energy irresponsible. Unfortunately, the Kyrgyz government has not put in place, I mean, most countries, many countries in the world, try to encourage energy-saving building by essentially discouraging bad building practices. The Kyrgyz government, for whatever reason, has not done that. So it still makes very cheap electrical energy available to people, which encourages them to just waste it.
Well, what other innovations can we expect in the AUCA? And, well,
what other innovations? Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we're really working on hard right now is trying to figure out how to use the technological prowess of this campus to deliver education to our students in some ways that we haven't before. So all universities, and not just AUCA, still teach in a pretty old-fashioned way. I mean, most of the time there's one faculty member who tells you things and you learn them and then you tell them back to that faculty member. Yet, as you know, I'm sure you know, most of the students here know better than we do, there are, hundreds of thousands of other platforms out there that you can learn something from. And we don't do a particularly great job of mixing and matching and saying, well, wait a minute, the set of lectures that exists on edX, let's say, to teach you accounting is at least as good as the set of lectures given by someone here. Accounting is a pretty cut and dried subject. I mean, you either know it or you don't know it. It's not obvious why we should be teaching this course anymore. Yes, you have to know accounting, let's say, but we could arrange things such that you take the course on Coursera and the faculty member here gives examples or amplifies things, does some extra things that you couldn't do otherwise. So we make better use of that faculty member's time and we teach the students better and more effectively. That's something it's hard because faculty members don't really like the idea of giving up control over their course. And they're all afraid they're going to be replaced by a machine.
Oh.
And the question there is having to teach the faculty member, no, we're not trying to replace you, we're just trying to have you do something different than what you've done, and you don't just repeat something that someone else can do. But that's very difficult. So I think we will have some experiments and some innovations in that area, particularly in those fields where where there's a pretty obvious understanding of what it is that you need to know at the end. So things like, you know, a complicated course in social theory, there you're not going to take that as a Coursera course, because there it's the interaction and the give and take of the course where most of the learning takes place. Accounting, we're not so interested in the give and take of the students in accounting, probably. They have to show they know the roles and they know how to apply them and they know how to use them. So I think that we'll see that. We're also trying to figure out a way to create a series of sophomore and junior seminars that would be more intensive learning experiences to replace some of the courses that we are required to teach but that aren't particularly interesting, like the history of Kyrgyzstan or philosophy. So we're working with the departments and divisions to try to come up with some ways. So I think there are going to be a lot of improvements in the way we deliver education here that they won't be something, that won't be a totally new program, but it'll be some really innovative things that make the learning process much more intensive.
Innovation. We introduced a cashless system here in the AUCA. There was some reluctancy in the beginning.
As always.
But we have the students and faculty, have they adjusted to it now completely?
As far as I know, nobody's complaining to me anymore, A, and B, the cafe owners are doing the same amount of business that they were doing when they had cash. So as far as I can see, it works. I mean, a lot of these things, it's just a question of people getting used to something new. And, you know, even though universities are supposed to be hotbeds of innovation, lots of things that people do in their everyday life, they don't want to do any differently. So, you know, I think it's a better, there's all sorts of reasons why it's a better system. So once you switch, at first people get over their initial reluctance, and then after that they kind of go, yeah, okay, it's just, that's what normal is.
It's amazing, really. I myself use the cashless system now, and it works out well, very easy.
I mean, there's still some things we could improve, and there's some technological, I mean, we still don't have the kind of wave your card at the thing, and it just, I mean, in the US these days, I mean, I was just in the US over the Christmas break, and you know, you go into a Starbucks, I mean, it would never occur to anybody. When I tried to pay in cash, they looked at me like I was from Mars.
Oh.
I mean, everybody just picks up their telephone and goes, choo.
Oh, wow.
And then that's how everybody pays.
Oh.
Not even using credit cards, it's all now hooked to their telephones. So, I mean, and it's obviously better. I mean, no one forced them to. Starbucks will still take your $20 bill, but basically nobody uses it. So here we forced it a little bit. We had our reasons for doing so, but we're getting to the same place where the rest of the world is. And you know, it's not obvious to me why Kyrgyzstan always has to be 25 years behind. We could be the same as everybody else. That
was such a great approach that you took, which has been a success really. And about the new dormitory, a new dormitory is being built, as I understand.
Well, a new dormitory is being planned. We expect to start building in June, I think. Actually, if you look out the window from the 4th floor, you can see it staked out on the ground where it's going to go. So yes, the architect was here this week. We're running a tender now for the local architect who will do the local drawings, and hopefully we'll start building in June.
What should the students be expecting? Of course, it's so close.
At first, very small. I mean, the dormitory at first is only, it's a 3-building complex. We will build the first building first, of course. When it's all done, which will probably take about 4 years, we'll have probably 100 student beds and 12 faculty apartments. And primarily those will be for international students who come with no Russian, because that's the group of students that really has a hard time trying to find apartments in the open market. And pretty much only for freshmen, because after they've been here a year, we figured we can kick them out into the real world and they can find apartments. So we're not trying to build a huge dormitory complex. I mean, part of it is also, as you look around this part of town, there's a lot of cheap apartments in the 12th micro region. And so for us to compete with them doesn't make any sense. So I think we'll have a lot of students living in close proximity to the campus, but only some of them will be living in our housing.
International students, that reminds me, what country are we focusing on in the future?
Well, I mean, 90% of international students come from 3 countries. They come from India, China, and South Korea. So it makes us reasonably sure that we can focus also on those countries. I mean, particularly because those are also not very far away. I think India probably less realistic. India students will come for medical school, but not for anything else, probably. But China and Korea, I think we have a reasonable chance. And then we're also looking at Iran, because as you know, Iran is changing and opening up a little bit, and we believe that there's a market for American-style education among Iranians. So that's an area we will be looking as well.
So much, AUCA has so much to give to students. Where can they find the information? Where would you suggest them to look up?
Well, for potential students, you mean?
Potential students.
Well, so now, I mean, we've created a new landing page on our website. So if you come looking for information about applying, you get to a dedicated place where information is made available. So I think within the next few weeks, it'll be pretty easy to navigate on our website. Now the website, for an applicant, the website is primarily designed now to give information to people inside the university. So we're creating a kind of parallel world for people who are coming from the outside looking for information about the school. And I think that will be pretty easy to access. And we're also developing, and it will be available within the next few weeks, an online version of our exam. So students will be able to take our entrance exam online. They won't have to go someplace and take it, which also should presumably help some students from other countries be able to come here.
That's great. And coming a bit coming back to our home, AUCA, there's a paid parking system.
Yes.
And can you please tell us what are the penalties for not following the rules?
Well, we're not actually, at this point, we basically decided it was easier to put one of our security people out there and simply not let people in who would break the rules, and that seems to have solved the problem. I mean, essentially, in Bishkek, generally, if you live in Bishkek, you can't get anywhere in Bishkek because there are no parking rules. And it's not even because there are too many cars. I mean, if Bishkek could actually solve its parking problems, the streets would be fine. Because people just park randomly wherever they want, whenever they want to. And so they have this idea that parking for free anywhere they want is a human right. If they lived anywhere else in the world, pretty much they would realize that no, parking is something you pay for, and you organize in a reasonable manner. So in this university, because we spent quite a lot of money building a nice road on that side of the campus, which primarily is supposed to serve as a fire road. I mean, that's how a fire engine is supposed to get here if there were ever to be a fire. So we have to have that road open, so we can't just let people park all over it wherever they want. So making sure that we limit the number of people there, and then that we at least pay back some of the costs of that road through parking fees is a pretty reasonable thing to do. Particularly since on the other side of the university, if people don't want to pay, they don't have to pay. So, I mean, no one is forced to pay for parking at AUCA. If they don't want to pay, they can park on the other side of the university, which, by the way, in the US, does not happen. In the US, you pay everywhere. There's no such thing as free parking at a university campus in the US. So, one more thing that people will learn. And again, soon, I'm sure soon, Bishkek will also institute a system of paid parking, because it has to, because otherwise the city is going to come to a complete halt.
Yes.
And when that happens, people will be much more open to the idea of paying for parking, because then it will happen at other places.
Of course. Well, that's fair enough. And you see, with all the space in our universities, artists, other organizations, they are interested in hiring up the auditoriums and the space available. I know that they have to, there's certain criteria, and can you please tell us how are they eligible to hire a place?
Well, so, I mean, we're willing to rent space in the building to use at times when we're not using it, to pretty much anyone. I mean, we wouldn't do it for a striptease club, but for anyone with legitimate activity that we can possibly control. I mean, we don't want 50,000 people in the building either, but we're happy to rent the space out. But there are of course limits, because we can't rent, for example, the central atrium here during school hours. It's just too noisy, and then classes can't go on. So that's only available on weekends or during vacation periods. CH, the room upstairs, we can rent out when the class is not taking place in there. And of course we should, because any money that we get from renting spaces just goes into the general budget, and then we don't have to charge our students as much. So obviously we should try to pay for the building as much as we can, or make the building pay for itself as much as we can. We do make space available at a discounted rate for various of our partners, for various alumni groups. So, I mean, a lot of the events that you see happening in the building are pretty much cost. I mean, we have to hire an extra security guard, they pay for it. We have to hire extra cleaning, they pay for it, but otherwise we don't charge them anything. So if someone has an event who is a student or an alum or a friend of the university, they get a different rate. And the rates are published on our website, so it's easy.
Oh, okay, that's where they can find it at. That's great. Well, so much of space, so much of things that you provide here. How do you advise the students to take the most out of it? What are your advices, suggestions?
Well, I mean, we always give the same advice, which is you should do the things you like. You should be studying the subjects that you like. You should be involved in the activities you like, because if you do that, you're going to do them more intensively. And I mean, I think our students generally do take that advice, and they generally do seem to do the things that they enjoy doing and get pleasure out of it. And we would like, I mean, for example, I would like to have a movie night here once a week where we show a movie on the big screen in English. And somehow I keep proposing this and no one takes me up on this, but so I'd like to see some student group come forward and say, okay, yes, we'd like to take care of being the organizers of once a week AUCA movie night. Let it be Thursday night. Now that you can get Netflix in Kyrgyzstan, we can sign up for a Netflix account, and for $10 a month, you can show any of, I don't know, 5,000 movies that Netflix shows, and you can have some student committee decide what movie you're going to show that week, and you show a movie. I mean, to me, that would be a great way of using the space nicely and doing things that we don't do currently. But again, it's not my job to tell students what to do. They should do what they want to do. If no one wants a movie night, if they want to sit at home and watch Netflix on their computers, that's their business.
And well, 2016, do you believe in resolutions? Do you have any?
We'll just try to not go bankrupt this year. That would be a good resolution. I mean, every year is a struggle to get to, we have prices go up and salaries go up and people's ability to pay us goes down. And so it's always a question of just trying to make everything balance and then be able to do new things around that. So, our resolution is to keep trying to do as much as we can for our students and keep pushing forward to do as many new and interesting things as we can.
That's nice. We get inspired a lot from you, the students. Do you get inspired from us?
Of course. The energy, whenever I am annoyed at what's going on here, I try to go to some student-related thing, because then I remember why we're doing this. I mean, running a place like this, there's lots of stupid little annoyances all the time. It's inevitable. Some of them come from us, some of them come from the outside. And if you just spend your time worrying about all the negative things, then that makes your life miserable. So it's great to see students positively doing things, go on to the AUCA TV, YouTube, and see some of the great stuff you guys are doing and saying, wow, our students really do amazing things. That is why you do it in the first place.
Wow. So. It was a pleasure knowing so much from you. Is there anything you'd like to tell us, which I haven't asked?
I think you asked a great set of questions and a great set of, uncovered a good set of things. So, the most important thing is we're always available for the students, and if students want something, they should remember to ask for it.
That we shall remember.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Mine too. Well, that was Mr. Andrew Wachtel. The students' questions have been answered, or I hope so. Well, guys, until the next show that we prepare, I hope we prepare something interesting for you as this one was. And well, be good, study hard. It's a new semester, full of new opportunities. Take advantage of the new things, all these wonderful things that we have been provided with. This is Usha Rajak saying goodbye. Have a lovely day.